Well, how's it going, everyone? And welcome to another ND Ninja Stars podcast episode. And this time, we're going to talk a little bit more about the positivity. Again, a bit more of an introduction before we start going into the interviews. But a question was raised up, and it's an important question to actually consider: is why the positivity? That might seem strange, but a lot of neurodivergent communities, their desire is for the conversation to be around balance. That yes, to talk about the positives, but there are also challenges. There are also disabling factors of being neurodivergent and all that jazz. And that was what someone said to me a couple of days ago when I was talking about wanting to spread positivity for neurodiversity. Is it's important to focus on the challenges as well, and it's almost a bit wrong to be focusing on the positivity. And what would I say to that? Well, actually, I agree with it. I do agree with it. I agree that there does need to be the balance to showcase the entire life of someone, whether they be autistic, whether they have ADHD, whether they have Tourette's, whether they have epilepsy, whatever. Okay. But I'm going to explain very clearly why I'm focusing on positivity more than anything else through, weirdly, an illustration of a seesaw. Now, here's the thing, right? The whole idea of a seesaw is to have the balance, yeah? And imagine if you were told, right, I want you to ensure that the seesaw is perfectly balanced, perfectly level, right? That's fine. To do that, sit in the middle and don't need to move anything. Okay. Now, what I want you to imagine is that someone has decided to sit on the far end of that seesaw whilst you're sitting in the middle, right? And that's obviously caused the seesaw to swing one way. What are you going to do to balance it? You need to sit on the other end to level it out. Now, why am I mentioning a seesaw? Well, in reality, that is the challenge we find ourselves in. That thing about being balanced and showcasing the negatives and the positives, okay? Well, that's all well and good. But what if the majority of perspectives are either one way or the other? You see, if we lived in a world, for example, where all that was ever spoken about um, when it came to those neurodivergent is that they're gifted and they're amazing people and all this sort of thing, I would be the very first one to go, well, hold on. There are challenges as well. We need to talk about the challenges as well. Okay, that's the whole idea of being balanced. I would make it my goal to balance the views of others, but the fact is, the world has a very negative view on those that are neurodivergent. Just think about it. Think about news stories that you might have heard of those that are autistic, for example. What's the things you normally hear about? Well, you might hear about, for example, an autistic person who, during a meltdown, attacked their family or burnt down the house. The negative stories, the scary stories. Yeah. Or if we were to put a twist on it the other way, is anti-vaxxers, where you'd have parents refusing to take certain vaccines for the fear of their child being autistic. How about for ADHD? What's the first thing we think of? Needs a bit of focus. Needs, it's all about getting them focused, getting them whipped into shape, and getting them, you know, um, they're always distracted, always distracted. And again, Tourette's. What's the first thing you think of? The swearing, the distractions. This is all the things that we think of first. And by the way, we're not bad for thinking of these first, because that is the things that get drummed into our brains from media outlets, from people around us. That is the pattern of thinking when it comes to those circumstances. So, what are we going to do about it? We're going to talk positively about them for many reasons. In the idealistic world is the fact that the entire world ends up watching these streams and adjusts their view of those that are neurodivergent. But that, like I say, is idealistic and ideal world stuff. I, like a lot of you, like to live in the here and now, in the reality. But there is a reality that we can talk about. It's the reason why we speak positively about ourselves. I sort of alluded to it in my previous episode where we were doing, talking about, people feeling negative about themselves. Well, if you are neurodivergent and the only things you hear about those that are neurodivergent is horror stories, for want of a better word, they're going to affect you. And so these episodes, more than anything else, is a chance for you, for me, to feel better about it. For us to have that ideal balanced you that was mentioned by one of my viewers. To have that perfect circumstance where we don't have to worry. Yes, we are all very acutely aware of our challenges and our difficulties and our sensory overloads and our minds going into, getting distracted very quickly and all this sort of jazz. We're always aware of that. But hopefully, these streams are these podcast episodes, all this sort of thing, are a chance for you, for me, to feel more positive about ourselves. Now, there's a lot of introductory episodes that we are doing here, and that's more to get you guys in the groove, get you guys ready for this, because I am absolutely looking forward to this. We already have 2 guests in line ready. We potentially have a third. I'm doing some work in the background with others, and I'm always open to suggestions as well, because this is a special opportunity. A special opportunity for us to showcase those lives, for us to see those similarities, for want of a better word. And I wanted to sort of make it live for you through a conversation that I had with someone yesterday, actually. We found out that each other were autistic, and her dad was also with her. And it was great having a little conversation with them, that actually seeing how when the disabling factors are enabled, they feel empowered. And that's another thing as well, by the way, guys. I'll talk about this just a little bit. Disabled, enabled, empowered, right? Disabilities feel less like a disability when allowances are made. Let me give you an example. Imagine the entire world had ramps. Do you think those in wheelchairs would feel as disabled as they probably do now? Probably not, because the entire world is accessible for them. They don't have to worry about that sort of thing. They don't even have to worry about it when getting in a car, because there is a ramp already going up into the car. Imagine as well, let's say, if every textbook in the world was written in Braille, who would feel enabled? Those that are blind. And that's what I'm talking about here is the fact that, yes, there are disabling factors of being neurodivergent. Of course, there are. When allowances are made and adjustments are made, you feel enabled. And when those adjustments are made and you feel enabled, you feel more comfortable to talk about the things that are your strengths. And guess what? You become empowered. You see, every one of us as a human being has that right, or should have the right, and should have the ability to make a difference in the world. And the fact is, all of us sometimes need a little bit of support, a little bit of adjustment, a little bit of allowance so that we can do that. And um, hopefully, these podcast episodes could be one way to enable you guys so that you feel empowered. Thank you. Continue to support in the ways that you can.